That's about 2 meters or 6 feet. 2 meters, 6 feet. You're probably wondering what I'm doing, and once again, I'm confirming at least 2 meters or 6 feet for social distancing. That we're adhering to all of the guidelines that we are learning about. Hello, everybody. This is Captain Roman Wojnarski, from Station 424 in West Command. We're, of course, with Toronto Fire Services in another one of our Discussions in a Fire Hall series. Today, we're talking about something very important, kitchen fire safety. We can't talk too much about this topic because it remains the leading cause of fire in the home, the leading cause of fire in the city, in the province, so it's something that we want to address as often as we can, something we want you to practice and remember for safety's sake. We invite you to type your questions to us in the comments box on the screen in front of you. We welcome your questions, your comments, your criticisms. Even if you just want to call and say hello, we're happy to give you a shout out. So anyway, two of my very finest fire prevention officers. We've got Mike Ross and Greg Moore here to join us. And again, kitchen fire safety, we've got something really special this week to show you. So come on in, guys, have a seat, and remember, send us your questions.
Hello everyone, thanks for having us here today. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Mike.
Yeah, my name is Greg.
And we are fire and life safety educators with the Toronto Fire Services. And thank you, Captain, for having us back for another edition of Discussions in a Fire Hall. This week, I'll be on cooking, kitchen safety. And why is that, Greg?
Yeah, so kind of like Captain Roman mentioned, unattended cooking is actually the #1 cause of fires in our city and actually across the whole province of Ontario. So really kind of the whole reason we're doing this today is to give you some information and some tools to help keep you and your loved ones safe, and maybe together we can change some of these statistics.
That would be awesome. Yeah, with all of us being home, we feel safe at home. We sometimes let our guard down. We want to make sure that we prevent something devastating happening while we're all at home today.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of a general overview, sort of the one main thing that we try to get across when we do these sorts of talks when it comes to unattended cooking is to make sure you're always staying in the kitchen. Okay, no matter what, from the minute you start till the minute you are done cooking, we want you to stay in the kitchen. That means whether you're frying something up, you're boiling water, grilling, anything at all, stay in the kitchen. At Toronto Fire Services here, we actually have sort of a saying, a little catchphrase that rhymes, and it's look while you cook. So it's definitely something to keep in mind when you're cooking, to just always look while you cook and stay in the kitchen.
Now, can we give our viewers maybe some tips on how to make their kitchen safe? How we can prep it, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So, like firefighter Mike was saying, there's a couple things we want to do to help keep our kitchen safe, okay? #1 thing we want to do is to make sure that we actually prepare our kitchen, okay? There's things we can do in the kitchen to just make it generally safer when we are cooking. So one thing we can do is have sort of a kid-free zone, okay? Kids are home right now because unfortunately schools are out. But what we want you to do is to have a kid-free zone, about 3 feet or at least 1 meter around any appliances, okay? So that includes the stove, anything that's hot, make sure the kids stay away from there, okay?
And maybe another way to think about it is the little dome light above your stove. If it's turned on, teach your kids that the stove is hot, the oven is hot, stay out of the kitchen. Nice, easy tip that you can teach your kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something else maybe is we need to avoid loose clothing. Try and wear short sleeves, avoid those big baggy sweaters, silky bathrobes. Let's keep those out of the kitchen. Wear some short sleeves or at least roll your sleeves up. Our clothes can catch on fire very easily, and if we drag it across the stove, we could have a problem.
Yeah, another good tip would be to just keep the general area around the stove, even the microwave, as I said, anything that get hot, keep that area free of any combustibles. So that includes your dish towels, that includes any boxes that you may be using to cook with. Just keep them away, so that way if anything falls over, anything lands on the stovetop, you're not going to have a fire start.
Keep them out of the splash zone.
Exactly. Another quick thing, good piece of advice would be that when you're cooking with frying pans or pots, and they're on the stove top, just make sure that you turn the handles in. Okay, we don't want them facing out, hanging out over the outside of the stove, because what can happen is if someone walks by, accidentally bumps it with their hip or something, you can actually knock that pan or that pot off the stove, and you can burn yourself or potentially start a fire.
And make sure we're alert, we're aware. We need to be in a good mindset when we're cooking. So if we've consumed alcohol, drugs, or taken types of medication that can make you sleepy, we want to avoid cooking at those times.
Absolutely.
Now, what can our viewers do if they have a fire? They do their best, they try and prevent it from happening, but something happens.
Yeah, things happen, you know, so we want to make sure that if we do have a fire, even if we practice our prevention methods that we're talking about here today, we want to make sure that we're ready. So a good thing you can do is keep a pot lid or a baking sheet actually nearby whenever you're cooking. And the reason we want you to do that is that if you have a pot fire, a grease fire, anything like that, what we want you to do is actually slide a baking sheet or a pot lid just on top of the pot. Okay, what that does is that will actually take the oxygen away from the fire, and the fire will essentially be smothered and will eventually go out actually. And also make sure you turn the stove or the appliance off.
Yes,
okay?
yes. If you can do that, like Greg said, it'll smother that fire. Whatever you do, do not move that pot. If you go to move the pot anywhere, the flames, the grease could get onto you. It's so important that we keep it right there and just put a pot on it. Now, can we use water?
No, absolutely not. I don't know if anybody at home has seen what happens when you put water on a grease fire, but it can actually make an explosion, believe it or not. And we do have a video.
Instance, but somebody might not be so lucky next time. So it's so important that you always keep that baking sheet nearby, and a couple of the tips Greg and I talked about today,
Kind of implement them into your day-to-day cooking.
Yeah, it's very important to remember too that once you have that pot lid on that pot or the baking sheet on, to make sure you turn that appliance off and keep the pot lid or the baking sheet on until the fire is actually out. Okay, and also it is also important to remember that if at any point the fire spreads from the pot somewhere else, or maybe you're not comfortable doing this, at that point just please head directly outside and phone 911. Phone us, right? That's our job. Our job is to come and help you if you have a fire. So get outside, phone 911, and we can come and help you.
absolutely. Now, if you're in an apartment, it's very important that when you go to evacuate, that you close the door behind you. That'll contain the fire in your apartment and keep the exit clear and free of smoke
For all of the other people in your building. Now, Greg, what happens if we had a fire in a microwave or an oven?
Yeah, so good question. We talked a little bit about stoves, but that's right. What happens if there's a fire in the oven or maybe in the microwave? So what we want you to do is it's actually a similar principle, okay? We want you to keep those doors closed. Okay, if you have a fire in your oven or your microwave, keep that door closed, okay? Your instinct may be to open it, maybe to try and get some water or something. We don't want you to do that. Keep that door closed. Eventually, the oxygen inside the appliance will run out, fire will go out. Make sure you turn the appliance off as well.
Excellent, excellent. Or if you can, unplug that device, especially the microwave, we might be able to do it.
Yeah.
Now, as you can see today, we've gone through kind of prevention. We want to talk about, in that video, there was no sound of a smoke alarm either. And we're not sure if there was one there or not, but we want to talk about smoke alarms with you because they are so extremely important there. When it comes to smoke alarms, they're our best friends in a fire. They are going to give us that early detection to get out of the home as quickly as we can. So many of us have these great devices in our homes. Greg, can you tell the viewers where they should find them?
Absolutely, yes. We want to find our smoke alarms on the ceiling, okay? We also want them installed on every level of our home and outside of our sleeping areas. You know what, I'll actually mention really quickly here, just because I'm thinking about it, that this is an interactive video live stream here, so if you have any questions, comments, anything at all, please by all means comment down below, and we'll get to your questions. We'll get to your questions towards the end of the video. But yeah, so remember, smoke alarms on every level of the home, outside of our sleeping areas, and they're best on the ceiling. Okay, smoke rises, so we want our smoke alarms up high. Okay, so now the thing about smoke alarms though is we want to make sure that they work. Now how do we do that?
Well, at your house you'll have, there's many different types, kind of get to know the ones that you have in your home. A lot of them these days kind of look similar to this. All of them have a test button, usually located somewhere on the face of the device, and we need to test them every month to make sure that they're working. And it's as simple as holding the button down. We've all come to know that noise. If we hear that in our home, we could have a fire, there is smoke, we may need to evacuate as fast as we can. But remember, test it every single month. Now, we also want to ensure that we have working batteries in our device. And they're usually installed on the back, sometimes the side. Change the batteries every 6 months. So when we change our clocks, change the batteries in our smoke alarms. And there is one more point about them. Just like all of our appliances, they're not good for forever. These have a lifespan of 10 years. So take a look at yours. There's usually a date on the side or on the back for you to take a look at. It's a manufacturer's date or a replaced by date. So take a look at yours. Make sure that they're up to date, they're working, and test them every month.
Yeah, absolutely. And something to keep in mind for maybe some of the seniors out there, or if anybody has any sort of physical disabilities and you're maybe not able to reach the smoke alarms, right? Usually up on the ceiling they can be hard to reach. By all means, have a friend, have a family member, someone kind of that you trust that can help you test your devices for you. You can also grab a broom handle, grab something to help extend your reach, just enough to press this button for a second and listen for those tones. Okay, if you hear those tones, you know that the device works.
Now we want to make sure you have a plan too, so that if there is a fire in your home, you've created a plan with you and everybody you live with. What we call that is a home escape plan. And what you want to do is do it with everyone you live with, draw out a map of your house with how many ways out, Greg?
Yes, we want to make sure that you have at least 2 ways out of your home. That way, if there's a fire potentially blocking one way, maybe there's just some clutter, some combustibles, something blocking one of the exits, you always have a backup.
Yeah, in a house it could be windows and doors. In an apartment building, it's going to be the stairwells at each end of your hallway. Located there will be a pull station that Greg has over there. Take a look for those in an apartment building. That's where you want to go. Now, when you're making your plan and you want to go into each room and look for those 2 ways out, it's a good time to check all the windows and doors too to make sure that they're operational, that they're going to work in the event of a fire. And maybe walk through the home too and clear the exit of anything that could combust or catch on fire.
Yeah, so a very important part of your home escape plan too is determining a meeting place. So what we mean by a meeting place is somewhere outside, somewhere in front of where you live, whether it's a house, apartment building, doesn't matter, something up front of where you live, maybe a tree, maybe a specific spot on the sidewalk, some specific place that everyone that you live with knows about, and that way if there's an emergency, maybe you get lost, everyone knows to go to that place. Okay, that way when we show up, you can notify us, you can let us know that everyone got out safely, or if you're not sure where someone else is.
Try and practice those plans twice a year.
Yeah, at least twice a year.
At least twice a year. Test those smoke alarms every month, and remember, look while you cook. Captain Woj, is there any questions from our viewers?
Yeah, great information, fellas. We've got Betty from North York. Actually, she says, shocking when she saw that video. Absolutely shocking. Wondering if the occupants could have used salt or baking soda to put that fire out instead of putting it in the sink. Salt or baking soda?
Salt or baking soda. Great question. No. We don't want you to use that. We want you to use that oversized pot lid or the baking sheet to cover it up. It's non-combustible, it can't burn, it's going to cover the entire pot much more uniformly than anything else. It's the best thing to use.
Okay, good one. And Jet is asking about nuisance alarms. I mean, this is one we get all the time. Cooking fumes tend to set off my smoke alarm. I don't like taking the battery out, but I do because it gives me a headache. What can we tell Jet about alternatives to taking the battery out, which should never be done, right?
Yeah, so that's extremely common. We all experience it too. We'll be cooking, maybe we accidentally burn something a little bit, you know, our smoke alarm starts going off, it can drive us nuts. So first and foremost, I just want to explain to people that disabling a smoke alarm is unlawful. Okay, it is against the law in Ontario, so we never ever want to do that. But thankfully, there is something in place now, actually built into our smoke alarms, that can allow you to more or less turn it off for a few minutes. Turn it off to give you time to get that smoke out of the space that stops beeping at you. So what that is called, that is actually called a hush button. Okay, so on the device that Mike and I have here, the test button that we talked about is the one on the bottom. The hush button is the one just above it. Okay, so if that smoke alarm is beeping at you because you're cooking, just simply press that button. Hold it for a second, and it'll actually turn the alarm off, believe it or not. Now, a lot of other modern smoke alarms will actually have just one button. We get a lot of questions about this too. Well, my smoke alarm only has one button. What do I press? That button is actually both the test button and the hush or silence button. So it's beeping at you, just press that button, and it'll turn it off. Just remember to never take it down, never take the battery out, never disable it.
And something you can do as well is potentially relocate that smoke alarm. Because as long as it's still on the floor level, maybe it doesn't need to be in the kitchen. Move it just outside the kitchen to prevent it from always going off during these nuisance alarms. You can always dust out your smoke alarms with a vacuum. That will take the dust out and prevent it from going off. There's also multiple types out there too. We have photoelectric and ionization. Usually the ones that are always going off for the ionization, you can replace them with a photoelectric. Go to your local hardware store and check them out. There they have great staff that will be able to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, everyone, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, always look while you cook. Stay in the kitchen whenever you are cooking. Test those smoke alarms every month. Create that home escape plan while we're home today. Test it twice a year and make sure that you and everyone you live with are safe.
Yeah, great advice. And for more information on everything we talked about today, as well as other good fire safety information you can share with your loved ones, go to our website. We have a lot of good information on there. The website is www.toronto.ca/fire. So check it out. Lots of good information on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, and stay safe.
Stay safe.